Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Tech Motoring. So when should you start to look at buying an electric vehicle? Are you interested in buying an electric vehicle? Are they too expensive for you right now? How about the range? Is it good enough? How about charging the car? These are all concerns that a lot of people have when switching to an electric vehicle. However, if you do your research and you look into it, you can see that electric vehicles have come a long way in the past 5 years. And I'm going to show you today how much it's going to cost you, how easy it is to charge, and exactly what you can look forward to when buying an electric vehicle. So hit that subscribe button, stay tuned, we're going to be right back. So if you haven't noticed in the news for about the past year, there have been a lot of countries across the globe that have started to write down in law that they are going to start the ban of internal combustion engine vehicle sales, starting in the years 2030, 2035, 2040, all depending on where it's from. Now here in the States, you may have also noticed that certain states are starting to follow suit. And with that, certain states like California will start banning the sale of new gasoline engine vehicles and diesel in the year 2030. Now with that being said, there are going to be a lot of other states following suit, and we have already seen some of them doing that, making claims of 2030, 2035 to stop selling internal combustion engine vehicles by those years. And now, at that point, those people of those states will have to find an alternative. Now, that's not to say that you still can't drive a gasoline vehicle in those states, but car companies are going to have to stop selling new gasoline and diesel vehicles in those states. So as we see the tides turn for gas cars and electric vehicles starting to take the reign, what are some of the things that we should know? What are some of the things that you want to know about this? So I'm going to go over those with you today, and we're going to see exactly what we need to know to be ready for the EV revolution. So since I brought it up, let's go over a few countries that are already making strides to ban the sale of ICE cars in their countries. So taking a look at this list off of worldatlas.com, you can see right away down towards the bottom, Norway is actually probably one of the leading countries right now with the sale of electric vehicles. Last year, they actually sold more electric vehicles than internal combustion engine vehicles. That is actually more EVs than gasoline cars in the country of Norway. And as you can see, they have a very positive outlook on the year 2025 to start banning cars with ICE engines. Now, as we take a look at this list, you're going to see a bunch. China at 2040, Denmark at 2030, France at 2040, Germany at 2050. Now, a lot of you are probably thinking, well, these years are pretty far off. But really, when you think about it, 2030 is only about 9 years away. And probably some of you still have cars from about 9 years ago. So when you think about it, you may be only buying one more car before you will have to start buying an EV. Now coming back over to the United States, one of the first states to actually start this ban was California. And they claim by the year 2035, they're going to ban the sale of internal combustion engine cars by 2035. So just 14 years from now. Now keep in mind that this law primarily only concerns passenger vehicles at the moment. This is not going to ban any type of large trucks, commercial trucks, tractor trailers, anything like that. That's not going to start that ban as of yet. However, as you may or may not know, Tesla is already working on their fully electric semi-trucks to start pulling trailers back and forth. So even a semi-truck can be easily replaced probably within the next 10 years. So now let's go over the biggest concern most people have. Cost. How much does an electric car actually cost? A lot of people believe that electric cars are expensive, and I will give you some credit there. They are not exactly on the cheap side. Some electric cars do have some higher costs versus their gas-powered alternatives. However, The thing you have to remember with having an electric vehicle is that a lot of times the amount of money you spend on maintenance is greatly reduced. For instance, you don't have to deal with oil changes every 5,000 or 6,000 miles as you do with a gasoline car. There are no engines that have to be tuned up to allow them to perform better over the longevity. Electric vehicles are very simple. They have very simple electric motors that drive the wheels to allow the car to move. There is really no other moving parts other than that one electric motor, whereas an internal combustion engine has thousands of moving parts inside of that engine itself. That's not including the excess weight that you have because of a transmission, the excess weight you have for having an exhaust system, and these are all things that add up and do affect the way cars can drive and can also affect how long a car will last. So let's look at one of the electric cars out there that is actually making a big splash in the EV market right now. And you may never even have heard of this car, but Hyundai has released the Hyundai Ioniq. Now, if you haven't seen, we actually just recently bought a Hyundai Ioniq. It was a used 2017, which was the first year that they were out, but since they were limited only to the state of California, not a lot of people has ever heard of them. And if you ever wanted to look at my quick first impressions video, you can take a look at that link right there, and that will show you that car. But Hyundai has one of the most efficient electric vehicles out on the market currently. The only thing that beats the Hyundai Ioniq is the Tesla Model 3. And with that being said, efficiency is not to be confused with range. Efficiency is how far you can go on the amount of electricity that you have. So with the Hyundai Ioniq, they actually build a slightly smaller battery vehicle, but with a range that is fairly significant for that size battery. And as you can see here, the 2020 Hyundai Ioniq has a starting price of $33,000. Now that may seem pretty high, and that's pretty high in my opinion for that type of vehicle. However, what you gotta understand is that there's actually a federal tax credit up to $7,500 off the price of that car, which brings it down into the $25,000 range. So actually, for a brand new electric vehicle at $25,000, the Hyundai Ioniq is actually a very good deal. Now you may also notice that the EPA estimated range is 170 miles. Now that 170 miles is of course a mixture of highway and regular back roads that you would normally encounter on a typical day, which is why EPA uses that to rate their vehicles. And as you may notice, 170 miles is probably a lot less than what you get in your gasoline vehicle, and that is very true. However, what you have to understand is the convenience of being able to pretty much charge your car whenever you feel like it when you're home, because you can just plug it in, charge it overnight, and you'll be good to go the next morning. So keeping that in mind, plus the availability of charging stations, which we're going to go into a little further in just a bit. So let's move on to another car that might be in your ballpark. Here is the Nissan Leaf. Now Nissan was one of the first electric cars on the road over a decade ago. The Nissan Leaf, starting at about $31,600 for their fully battery car, is actually pretty good. And they give you an option of choosing between a smaller battery or a larger battery. And that larger battery can actually bring you up to about 226 miles on a charge. Really not too bad. Now we're well over that 200-mile range. And for most people, that is plenty to do your daily trips to and from work. You could probably go 3, 4, possibly even 5 days on that 200 and something miles of charge. Our Ioniq currently that we have is actually only rated to go about 125 miles, and that gets my wife to and from work and other things for the whole entire week. We only charge it up really on the weekends. Now let's move on to the Chevrolet Bolt. Now the Chevrolet Bolt has actually been around for quite a while too, and GM has been making the push towards electric vehicles for a while. Maybe not as well as they probably should, but you may have seen the GMC Hummer that was announced late last year that is coming out soon. But but this is one of their entry-level vehicles for the EV market. And as you can see, it starts about $36,500. However, with that $36,500, you are getting up to 259 miles worth of range. That's actually a little bit more than the Nissan Leaf's higher battery pack that you can get. So keeping in mind that that price for the Nissan Leaf was actually for the smaller battery pack, this is actually for the standard and only battery pack you get for the Bolt. So yes, a little bit more expensive. However, as you can see, you do get quite a bit more range. And how can I possibly forget Tesla? Probably the most widely known electric vehicle manufacturer in the world. And with the release of their Model 3 a couple years ago, they have brought in a car that is available to the masses, where more people can afford it and still get drivability and range that they are looking for in an electric car. And now the Tesla Model 3 starts at about $38,000 for their standard model, what they call the Standard Range Plus, and that gets you about 263 miles of range on a full battery. Now, if that's not enough, but you really are looking into getting a Model 3, they do offer the all-wheel drive versions, which of course give you a little extra range as well on top of the all-wheel drive performance. You can actually pick up a long-range Model 3 for about $47,000, but that will get you about 353 miles of range on that fully charged pack. Of course, I can go further and show you the Tesla Model S, which actually can now, with the new refresh, can go over 500 miles of range on the pack. However, with that car being well over $100,000, I don't think it's something a lot of people in the market are going to be looking at for their first electric vehicle. So now that we talked about cost, let's talk about something a lot of people don't quite understand when it comes to buying an electric car. Let's talk about charging and charging infrastructure. Now, what a lot of people don't know is that when you buy an electric vehicle, you have the option to just charge your vehicle at home in the convenience of your own garage, just by plugging it into a standard 120 volt outlet in your garage. And granted, it doesn't charge the car very quickly, but it's something that you can do overnight, and the car will charge quite a bit over the course of a night. And with that, you can actually just fuel your car without ever having to go to a public station like a gas station to put that fuel in your car. It's very convenient, you do it at home. Now, a lot of people have concerns about charging costs. The charging cost of me to charge our Hyundai Ioniq, once again, with a range of about 135 miles, it takes only about $3 to charge that car through my home electricity. So, right then and there, to get over 300 miles of range in my car, it doesn't even cost me $10. Whereas most people nowadays are probably paying somewhere between $2.25 to about $2.75 for a gallon of gas that may only get you about 30 miles. Now let's talk about charging infrastructure. And what I mean by charging infrastructure is there's actually places out there, just like gas stations, to allow you to charge your car. And some of these places are slower chargers, a little bit faster than your typical 120 outlet at home. Other places are what they call fast chargers, which you will typically see off of major highways. Now, Tesla superchargers you may have seen before. You may have even seen them in your local mall parking lot. But typically, Tesla superchargers are designed to quickly charge up a vehicle, and those are actually designed specifically for people who are traveling, which is why they're off of major highways. So Tesla superchargers are specifically placed where people will actually use them more often for long trips versus having to use them for just everyday charging. Now, the one thing that people may not understand is that Tesla superchargers are actually designed specifically for Teslas. No other car manufacturer can actually use a Tesla supercharger at this point in time. There have already been talks of Tesla opening up their superchargers for other manufacturers to be able to use them. However, at this moment in time, they are only designed for Teslas. So now let's say you get a different manufactured vehicle. So how do you charge those? Well, there are other public charging stations, just like Tesla superchargers, out there in the wild for everybody to be able to use for their cars. And pretty much every other manufacturer uses the same style of charging handle that plugs into the car. And that's literally like the gas nozzle that you use to fill up your car with gas currently. it's the same thing. This is literally just a charging connector that it plugs into your car to charge your battery. And that is a standard that is being used by pretty much every other manufacturer out there except for Tesla here in the United States. So if you haven't seen any of these public charging stations out there other than the Tesla superchargers, some of them go by the names of Electrify America, ChargePoint, EVgo, and there's a lot of other different types of charging networks out there. So they're not something that you would probably see often like a gas station. However, they are designed to be available for when you need to charge your car when going on road trips. And with that being said, there are certain places that actually offer free charging as well. So for instance, we have Tanger Outlets local to where we live here, and Tanger Outlet actually offers free charging for electric vehicles. Now granted, it's what they call a level 2 charging, which is like a 240 volt charging versus like your typical 120 that you would have in your house. So it is fairly quick, but it will take quite a few hours to charge your car up. Whereas those DC fast chargers I was mentioning before that are located off of major highways can charge your car anywhere between 30 to 60 minutes depending on your car and how fast the charger is for your car. So now that we've gone over costs, we've gone over range of these vehicles, and we've also gone over charging and the charging infrastructure currently available. And also keep in mind that right now there are thousands of public DC fast chargers being set up every single year in just the United States. So if you don't see one in your area right now, you will clearly see one very soon in the near future. And if you're ever curious if there are any electric vehicle chargers close to where you are, or where you live, or where you work, you can actually just download a simple app on your phone called PlugShare. And PlugShare is actually just a community-based sharing of electric chargers. And it's great when you're traveling and you want to know if there's a charger close to you that you just want to fill up your car for a little bit, and you can actually just take a look at the map around you, click on a charger, get some information about that charger, and see exactly where that charger is located. Is it open to the public? Does it cost you anything? All these things can be found on the PlugShare app, and it's a fantastic app and I use it all the time. So now let's talk about one more thing. So let's say that you can't get into an EV right now because you live in a condo or possibly a townhome that doesn't have a garage, or if you live in a city that has street parking or maybe parking garage parking and you don't have access to a charger in any of those scenarios. Well, how can an EV work for you? And yes, I agree that having to drive out to a public charging station every once in a while to charge up your cars probably not exactly ideal. It doesn't exactly make much sense when to have that. However, there are manufacturers that are working with this, what they call battery swapping technology. And NIO is one of the first companies to actually introduce this in China. And what they're doing is there's literally a battery that you can swap out of your car. You pull into a battery swap station, your car goes into it, it then swaps out the battery automatically on your car. Only takes about 5 or 6 minutes from what I've heard, and then go ahead and you drive off with a brand new charged battery. And keeping in mind that that is about the same amount of time it takes for you to fill your car up with gas, you can literally drive it to one of these places and get a brand new battery. Now that's not here available in America as of yet, but it is something that will probably have to happen considering all the people that are in these metropolitan areas with apartments and condos and, street parking. So that is something that can happen in the near future. Well, there you go, everybody. I hope that helped you out when it comes time for you to purchase your first electric vehicle. Once again, I know a lot of you are probably going to hold off till the last minute before you have to do it, and I understand that completely. But for those of you who are looking to get into the EV market as soon as possible, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below in the comments. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Definitely show your love for this channel. I do appreciate it greatly. I hope I answered your questions today. If you'd like to follow us on other formats, we do have a website, techmotoring.com. We are on Twitter @techmotoring, facebook.com/techmotoring. Of course, you could catch us here. We release a video every week here on YouTube. I'd like to thank you again very much for watching today's episode. And always remember, welcome to the future. Welcome to Tech Motoring. We'll see you all in the next episode.